used to keep you warm at night, and you'd keep me warm too. Lately it's been colder, laying next to you. Don't lie, don't lie, don't lie, baby, to me. Don't lie, don't lie, don't lie, baby, to me. I never had no money, and that may never change. I know you're stressed in dark clouds and all those rainy days. I've been crying rain and thunder, scared you won't come home. And put fears those violent storms and leaves me all alone. Don't lie, don't lie, don't lie, baby, for me. Don't lie, baby, my eyes are blind with tears. I don't believe in prophets, and I don't believe in kings. I don't believe in gold or diamonds since you tried to sell your ring. Don't lie, it's your turn, baby, to leave. Don't lie, it's my turn, baby, to leave. Don't lie, baby, to me. Don't lie, baby, don't lie, baby, to me.
I locked myself in our room, even though you and I don't live here anymore. I lit a match, watched it burn down, 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 down. I poured some gas on this rocking chair and dressing gown. I know too well I made some enemies, and I can never tell when good things come to me. But all I see are the shadows of lovers left behind. The shadows of lovers left behind. got this pistol loaded well. Shots ring out. There is nothing left to talk about. And I know too well I made some enemies, and I can never tell when good things come to me. But all I see are the shadows of lovers left. All I see are the shadows, they keep following me. All I see are the shadows of lovers left behind.
I used to keep you warm at night, and you'd keep me warm too. Lately it's been colder, laying next to you. Don't lie, baby, to me. Don't lie, baby, to me. I never had no money, and that may never change. I know you're stressed in dark clouds and all those rainy days. I've been crying rain and thunder, scared you won't come home. And pup fears those violent storms and leaves me all alone. Don't hide, baby, from me. Don't hide, baby, my eyes are blind with tears. I don't believe in prophets, and I don't believe in kings. I don't believe in gold or diamonds since you tried to sell your ring. Don't lie, it's your turn, baby, to leave. Don't lie, it's my turn, baby, to leave. Don't lie, baby, to me. Don't lie, baby, to me.
Hey, did you know that Rapid Fire Theater offers online classes? Register for online improv for beginners and work with experienced and skilled instructors who are there to teach you communication skills, gain your confidence, improve your teamwork, and strengthen your overall positivity. Don't want to be late. See you there.
thank you for joining us here tonight. We, Omens, have come together to demonstrate for you a tale of terror.
So terrifying, and yet so true. You will think both thoughts by the end of this night. We require a few things from you to get started in our tale of terror. The first will come from a map. If you wish to set that up, my friend.
Not just any map, a very important historic map. I present for you a map of historic London. Not just any map, a map of all of the murders in 1560 that happened in London, Ontario.
Oh my God, a chilling year.
It's a bad year for London, Ontario. London, England, the OG.
Truly.
So in the chat on YouTube, can we please get a number between 1 and 30? Go ahead, enter it now, and I'll tell you what that number does. I will randomly count for whatever number that is, and then whichever little button we land on will be one of the suggestions for our scene. With the caveat that if they're especially terrible, and especially any of the obics, we will veto that suggestion and move on to the next one.
Bump on to a funnier, less awful sounding murder from 1560.
That's right.
Because such is the way. In Cheapside or surrounding area, I see St. Paul's, and then Cheapside was a big zone.
Big zone.
Big zone.
Oh, not much happened over here. Pretty safe neighborhood.
Quiet. St. Paul's, quiet place.
Here, I have a 27.
27. Count them off.
27. Okay, we'll start here. 1, 2, 3, 4.
So a common way to die in 1560 London, to be booted into eternity.
Yeah, that's a real thing. Okay, great.
Booted into eternity. Great. Chilling.
Okay.
Truly chilling.
So the in case anyone missed it, if we had a tech issue, I can't find it, but I swear to you, it said Cripplegate Cobbler boots man messenger. Thank you, into eternity. So we have a cobbler and a messenger and one hell of a boot.
One hell of a boot, a real wind up on that boot. And the second thing we require from you is what was asked for you during the pre-show, asked from you in the pre-show, an image from a dream, such as chilling, many chilling things. There were many things given. I think I'm going to go with trench hand. I'll take it with a combo of trench foot, which is of course the wet foot disease. And this perhaps a different limb afflicted by a dampness, a perpetual and awful dampness, because I can think of truly worse than a damp that won't quit. I can think of few things truly worse. Let me finish.
Truly cold but damp. This for you folks is what we present as omens.
Omens. We begin as every day begins, with the rising of the sun over 1560 London. The bustle sweeps in, and the boots all start to trundle up and down the streets as the morning takes its way. As we settle in front of a cobbler's shack, a boot emporium of the way. Truly chilling, where perhaps even a brief glimpse of the future can be seen, of a man at a desk with strange devices on his head and hair unbefitting of the style of the era. But here we are in a cobbler's shack, where Marigold Bootsmith, herself a bootsmith, as is her name and wont, begins her day finally stitching and repairing and altering boots for the common folk.
Someone's gotta put boots on all these common folk feet. And
Indeed, for it was a damp season in London. A slippery mist hung in the air, polluting all who felt it. And if you couldn't get dry, well, you may die. This was a common and popular expression at the time. Children would sing it on the playground.
If you can't get dry, you might die. If you can't get dry, you might die.
And opening the door came in a shoeless man of ill repute. His name was Dugan, and everybody hated him because he always was a bearer of bad news, and he loved it. He loved his job.
Dugan's favorite food was meat pies, and you could tell that meat pies were his favorite food by the smell of nutmeg on his breath and the crinkly crumbs in his gigantic mustached beard.
Marigold, are my boots finished yet? I've got plenty more people to give ill news to.
That's Dugan. They're totally finished. I promise it's not going to be like last time. The seams are stable. I've used the finest beeswax for these, and I've put even a beautiful little embroidery of a lily of the valley.
A lily of the valley.
Just something special, because I know how bad you took it when your foot was damp for so long last season, and I know you blame me for the reason why your crops didn't grow.
I do. I could only be out trundling along in my fields for half the time, Marigold.
I
That
know.
meant half the crops, and that meant half of my children were very sick all winter, because that's how it goes in 1560s London. Give me
It's
that.
truly a hard knock life for us.
Truly, for us all.
Here are your boots, Dugan.
Thank you.
And payment.
Yes. Payment, you'll get your payment in the form of some news. Normally I deliver bad news, as I am wont to do, but I will give you what might be good news for someone like you and your stature. At the Bowery tonight, when the full moon strikes, when it strikes from the clouds, they're going to open up and it's just suddenly going to be bright. A shipment will arrive of the finest Italian leather, perfect for boots. And here's a little secret. No one's claimed that shipment. It's free to the first hands who take it.
What's the catch?
The catch is you have to be first, or they'll be gone just like that. Also, bad news, your father is ill.
What?
Yes, well, I calls him as I sees him. Your father is sick with the cough.
Not the cough.
Yes, the cough. So you just sit on that. Thank you for these boots. I've paid you in gossip, both good and bad, and I know how much you need fresh leather. Really keeps the damp out. It could really boost your business.
All I have is this old stiff leather that I have to chew on and gnaw on like a rat to make it soft enough to be able to be bent into a boot-like shape. That's how
Yes.
I made your boots. I gnawed on every scrap of leather I could get my little grimy hands on.
Yes, the chewing leather is, of course, what you're known for, but this could make you known for something great. Excellent, and great.
This is a lot to take in. Thank you. I think, Dugan, better not be another classic Dugan farce.
I'll never tell. You'll
All
just have
right.
to go to the docks at midnight and see for yourself.
It's too much nutmeg. It's too much nutmeg.
And Dugan departed in a cloud of particles, nutmeggy particles. Marigold went back
Marigold.
to her chewing.
Yeah, she resumed her chewing, as she did every day from dusk until dawn. When she wasn't chewing, she was sewing, and how her hands were terribly tired, and they were crinkled well beyond her 12 years. That's right, Marigold was 12 years old. She had learned the trade from her father, who has been off and on sick for most of her life. So if Marigold does not keep up this trade, she will lose everything that she has, which isn't much.
No. 12 was a fine working age back in the day, but it did not make you healthy or much money. As Marigold went home that night, she found herself at the bottom of the stairs, hearing her father's cough from the very top of it. His head appeared as he often did. He never came downstairs anymore. He was too scared by sounds he'd hear, of feet on the floor, of boots,
Father?
or sounds. Marigold.
Father, have you drank your clove tincture yet tonight? It's antibacterial.
Ah, I just need an ale. Just a regular ale will do Father just fine.
Father, we're out of ale. I had to spend the last bit of our shillings and our farthings on beef stock to get us through the rest of this damp season.
Shillings and our farthings. Marigold, we have no money.
I know.
I had a small feast hidden away, but I too have spent it on ale. If you'll excuse me. Ooh, but it hasn't made me feel better. Some would say it's made me feel worse.
I would say it's made you feel worse.
You would.
And it fills the chamber pots up much, much more quickly than our clove tincture. I'll tell you that much, Father. And I'm the only one around this townhouse who is emptying those chamber pots these days.
And I thank you for it. I'm too weak now to go down the stairs, so up here is where I dwell. Oh, Marigold, I fear I don't have much time left. And who will take care of you? Of course, as a 12-year-old, you are basically a 9-to-5er at this point. You are working every hour, but to have no one to come home to have no family to support you, what will become of you? I don't wish for you to become a ward of the state. Then you work and they take your money. It is 1560.
It is 1560, and I hope that I'll be able to be as independent as you are at the age of 34. I hope that I'll be more independent. That, you know what? I have plans tonight. Don't wait up for me.
You have plans on a damp night such as this?
That's right. But I'll wear my cloak.
Yes, your driest cloak, please.
And I will wear my most special cloven-footed boots, the kind that get you nice and up off of the damp cobblestones.
That's right. You can't get trench foot if you don't have feet on the ground. Clothes are immune.
That's our shop's specialty.
Yes, cloves and chewed leather. So.
All right, Father. To bed with you.
Oh.
To bed with you.
I go. Oh, yeah, I'm there. Okay, I'm gone.
Don't wait up.
I shan't.
Have to read your own bedtime story tonight.
Oh, I'll just make one up.
It's just the Bible. You just have to read the Bible.
Yes, I'll just read the one book we all have, the Bible.
Thank God for Martin Luther. We can read it because it's in English, because it's post-Reformation. I'll be off now.
And how. And away Marigold went, skipping down St. Paul, the relatively nice neighborhood, through the other neighborhoods of descending niceties, until arriving at the dock where a fog had rolled in, a thick, viscous fog, hiding the sight of most things and most people.
The fog was so thick, it began to rise all around, and it was a thick, dense London fog, and the scent of Earl Grey could be smelled for miles.
Yeah, just thick. It was also one of those fogs that really you got lost in. Were you near the forest? Were you near the docks? It was hard to say anymore. The lights, the candles had all been extinguished on the streets, and there wasn't much to guide Marigold where she needed to be. And then the sound.
The sound was the first thing that gave her clue to what was happening next. The sound of a ship's bell ding-donging as it came into port. Ding-a-dong, ding-a-dong. That
furiously ding-a-donging.
Classic noise that all ships make right before they dock. Just like a Canada goose taking off for flight, they had to have their musical calling card. Yes, a cold night.
Yes, very cold. And this, of course, being the only dock in town, just a lone, cobbled together wooden wooden set of boards covered in a what had seemed like a gelatinous fog. Not in fact snow, but a fog so thick and so damp just to touch it once might cost you the whole limb.
As the ship came closer to Marigold, she couldn't believe her eyes, for what she saw were men of bone, carrying candlelit torches, creaking in the wind, illuminating for brief moments their skeletal-like faces. Yes, this crew of bone men, much akin to Pirates of the Caribbean 1, in that scene where they're underwater and the moon briefly touches them and they all turn to skeletons and it's very cool. That is what Marigold was beholding.
Yes, and in that very moment, the moon did strike as promised, and all of the fog parted, and the bone men disappeared with it. But their laughter could be heard all around the symbol, the what was left, the crate, the mysterious crate.
Marigold exhaled exasperatedly, and she could see her breath break through the fog. She ran towards the crate and began to pry it open. She used all of the muscles in her 12-year-old biceps and triceps.
Which, from all that chewing and working leather into shapes, was in fact quite strong, quite something. And as she opened it, the fog poured out of it as if that had been the very source.
As the fog rose from the crate, she could hear a deep, ghastly exhale, as if something was being let out of a cage after a very long sleep. Kind of like in Aladdin when the genie was finally released from the lamp when Aladdin rubbed it. Similar to that. Oh my God.
As she inhaled particles, damp and damp, but she held up stretches of leather, and it was fine and Italian, the finest leather she'd ever chewed. She knew this at once. These would be sellers. But as she took the strips, there was one thing left in the box, in the crate. One last little bit.
It was a tiny boot. A boot that looked as if it could have been a Christmas ornament on a Christmas tree, or a boot the size befitting a doll.
Befitting a doll. And as she picked it up, she realized delicately within it, it sloshed a little bit of water. Just a bit. It hadn't spilled out yet. But as she smelled it, something, a strong tincture-y tone emerged, but not one she'd ever smelled before. Instead of medicinal, it smelled toxic. It smelled truly wet in a way that is difficult to describe.
Marigold, wanting nothing to do with the tiny wee boot and the toxic scent, shrugged, decided to cut her losses, and pitched it over into the vast water ahead of her.
And as she did, although they did not reappear, the sounds of the bone men laughing echoed through the fog. Yeah, back to work for the bone men. And the ship departed as mysteriously as it had came, as if it had only unloaded that one box, its sole job sent. And in the bottom of the lake, as that tiny boot descended, liquid poured out, and from the lake itself, a thicker, richer fog began to form.
The fog began to change color. A putrid brown began to take over the pure whiteness of the fog, and it looked as if this Earl Grey fog was now an Earl Grey fog of blood.
Blood. Toxic, sort of pucey in tone, like coppery, purpley green, just the worst shades you'd ever seen. Shades that people hadn't seen yet, because several colors hadn't been invented and or discovered, as it was an era without Crayola. It began to move into the town, as it was now the morning and the fog was rolling in. and everything it touched, every piece of cobblestone, began to rot ever so slickly.
Creak? Oh, my face! My face is rotting. Oh, my hands, they're rotting. It's as if I've been living in a boot for 18 years in the damp. Why? Oh, why, Governor, is this happening to me?
Let's see exactly 3 more townsfolk encounter the fog. No more, no less, but a solid 3 more.
Oh, I'm the flower merchant, off to peddle my flower. Oh, better open the door to start the day. 4 a.m. Oh! My lungs are being filled with Earl Grey piss. Oh, my eyeballs are gooing from my eyes. Oh no, what's this? It's as if I'm trapped inside a leathery prison. Oh! Just Orphan John here along the Thames, about to throw a nickel into the farthing into the Thames to get some good luck for little John, the smallest orphan there ever was. Oh no, what is this bewitched fog taking over my poor 3-year-old eyes? Oh God, why have you forsaken me?
Meanwhile, at Marigold's house, upstairs, she'd got home, she'd brought the leather, and she'd begin to work, hurriedly starting to put her designs out so the shoes would be ready first thing in the morning. When she heard a cough coming from upstairs. A wetter cough than was usual.
That's a wet cough. Father?
I had the window open and the fog is mighty thick out there. I'm surprised you got back alive, my daughter.
Father, well, shut the window. You know what they say, a nice arid climate is good for the cough.
Yes,
People will come to Alberta someday.
That's a timeless and popular saying that will exist for centuries and locations beyond this.
Father? Father?
And then the sounds of a thud, and then the sounds of a puddle, and then a drip on the stairs.
A drip down the stairs and a drip through the floorboards above Marigold's head. The dripping began to land all around her, on each piece of the sublime Italian leather. When she pulled the leather closer to her face and looked closer, it was a red drop. She began to wipe away the wet from her face and realized it was all blood. With a start, she clambered upstairs quickly to her father and found him, or rather didn't find him, or anything at all, except for a giant pool of blood in the middle of the bed where her father had been.
His nightshirt soaked through, his nightcap soaked through, his night shorts soaked through, his night slippers soaked through, as if he'd been lying there all this long and had just sunk into the bed, into the wetness itself. He had successfully closed the window before he'd done so. However, just wetness remained. Just a slick dampness over everything.
Marigold caught her first look at the outside world, seeing clearly for the first time in this new day what the fog had ushered in. A thick, pucey colored
Pucey, for
fog. Pucey.
The streets themselves seemed like they were rotting away into grotesque shapes of bone and hideous grotesqueries.
Hideous grotesqueries.
Mhm.
But Marigold recognized the scent of the air. It was the same scent as a little doll's foot smell.
From across the street, the window opened and Dugan stuck his smarmy face out. Don't touch the fog.
What?
It'll wet you to the core. Don't touch the fog. I'm a bearer of bad news. This is pretty bad, if I'm being honest. As you can see, my house is rotting into what seems to be bone.
You did this. You started all of this. You told me to go down to that wet, cold-ass dock in the middle of the night. You gave me all of this leather. I know it's you, Dugan.
And you threw the tiny boot away, the greatest gift of all. A dampness so damp it could do the worst things to your enemies. Look, I'm also partially melting away. The fog is getting to me a little bit up here. But here, it was supposed to be a weapon, but you made it worse. You threw it into the lake where it could become just a wave, just a disgusting wave of fog rolling up and over us all.
You shut your dirty pie mouth, Dugan. And with that, Meredith quickly fashioned a leather mask that she wore. She put on her over her mouth so she would not inhale any of the pucy air outside. And she marched her 12-year-old butt over to Dugan's house because she had a boot and she knew exactly which messenger's rump she was going to put that boot into.
As she opened the door, which was soft, more like trying to twist pudding, like it really just gave as the fog rolled over and through and permeated into everything. Downstairs, a trio of bonemen sat, grinning their horrible grins, their bones slick, but not worse than that. They just really got slick.
Each of those bonemen had a distinct personality and a distinct voice, and each of them greeted Marigold in a unique and charming way when she stepped through the pudding door.
Hello, milady. This one took off his skull and bowed it as if it were a hat. You were the one, the Fridas. This one was playing his ribs like a xylophone, as skeletons are wont to do. But you won't stop the man upstairs. He's too powerful. This one had gotten too wet, and his bones were very jellied, and so very like quivery dancing. Milady, a word of warning. If you are here to try and make things right, you need the boot. If you want to stop Dugan from taking over what's left of London after all of this, you'll need the boot. And you threw it in the lake, the wettest place of all. What are you going to do? How are you going to stop it? And the jelly one just kind of danced quiveringly.
Stop that graveyard smashing. This is no time to dance.
I'm practicing.
And if I'm truly the one who freed you, then that must make me your new master, Skeletons 3.
I guess the lady's got a point.
I can't go out there and swim into that bewitched water. You three, I command you as your new master to go and fish out that little doll boot. Bring it here.
Oh, all right. And the skeletons took off towards the door. I need to find an image befitting this. So they could be heard like clamping down the street and through the wetness. But upstairs were the sounds of Dugan's laughter. And also in the distance, you could hear the sounds of, just people upset at how damp they were, which is honestly pretty fair.
Pretty freaking damp out today. Hey, Claude, how's the weather? Oh, it's pretty freaking damp out here. Do you see the UV index today? Yeah, it's barely existing because there's so much damp out here. My God. But my skin, I'm telling you, this humidity, my skin has never felt better. Yeah, but it's a wet cold. It's a wet cold, so it sticks to your bones, not like a dry cold. Boy, we should all move to Alberta. We won't have this terrible wet cough anymore.
Yes, and meanwhile, underwater, the skeletons were doing what they do. what they do best, which in one case was just dancing, undulating with the waves. And one was taking off his head to look around, and the other one's keyboard ribs were underwater, like acting like sonar. So they were like making it easier to find. And they did. They found the tiny boot and returned to the surface. Just so wet. Now all of them were jelly bones. So they're all just gonna be dancing hard when we meet them again, which is right now as they emerge out of the fog. Three meaty skeletal boys. So damp they'd become partially blurry permanently. Here's your boot. There's a cost for the boot. You have to host the graveyard smash.
Fine. I do owe you a debt. Although I am your new master, I will provide a graveyard smash for you. Beautiful little jaws you got there. What's your name, by the way? What's your name?
Mine is Calcium.
Calcium.
My name is Calcium. I'm Bones, and I'm Jelly Bones, the dancer, the free spirit of the bunch.
Really, each one of you was more charming than the last. Go over, head next door, and you'll find lots of milk in my fridge. I hear that's what you might like. Lap it up like my kittens, my new little.
I love that, and a 1560s fridge. It's good. It's the good stuff. That's the freshest milk you got. A 1560s fridge is just the cow you have out back, ready to be milked.
Yeah, that's right. Go see Shonda back there.
And off they went, jellily slicking and sliding their way.
But the time for undulation and graveyard smashes was not upon us. For Meredith knew that she had a final task to complete. She knew that she had to take this pucy little shoe and its foul stench and kick it right between the cheeks of Dugan upstairs. For he had refused to pay his debt to her and had tricked her for the last time.
Dugan was looking out the window, staring at the fog and the damage it was wreaking on London. He didn't even look up when Marigold, entered the room. Do you see what we've done here?
What we have done here?
Yes. With my guidance and your actions, a new London will rise out of this wet and humid mess we've made. The people different, more controllable, more bones. You've turned London into a skeleton's delight. And from there, we can rule it. Have you ever considered that? Ruling London as a 12-year-old? Wow. That's like few 12-year-olds even get paid ultimately, and you could be the one in charge.
Dugan.
Yes.
I don't believe that is truly your name. I recognize, now that I'm in your dwelling, I realize these portraits are too fine for a mere resident of Cripplesgate.
What do you mean? You mean this, my beautiful upstairs living room?
Really lovely. It's really warm in here too. I haven't been warm since I was 7 years old.
Yes.
And your odd occupation with ruling London. Are you actually Mary Tudor? Are you Mary Tudor? Are you upset that your sister Elizabeth is soon to be on the throne? Are you trying to claim it even more for yourself?
Mary rips off the mustache she had been wearing to disguise herself in commoner London. Yes, tell me more about my motivations, my historical motivations in this moment, and why I would possibly want this, such a pox upon this land.
Well, you are literally Bloody Mary. You do love to burn anybody who isn't a Catholic since your father Henry VIII divorced your mother. Well, yeah, divorced your
Yeah,
mother.
my father was a real piece of work. Even I know that. Even I can see that was a real rough go.
Those are basically your motivations, and unfortunately, the child that you think is in your belly and you have been miraculously immaculately concepted is actually a tumor, and it's pretty fucking sad.
Ooh, that's a rough. That's rough. But how could you know that? You're a 12-year-old child in London. What could you know? You were easy to manipulate into causing this chaos.
Oh, en contraire, Mary Tudor Dugan, I am no longer a child. I am and with that, she poured the contents of the putrid water upon her head, and she began to fester and writhe and be consumed by the toxicity. She dropped the boot from her hand, and she took her last breath of air as a human child, and took her next breath of air as a monster of the mist, as a collection of leather and skin and bone and flesh. Her face grew out into what seemed to be a giant snout, but in actuality was a foothold, and her top of her head turned into a boot. She was an old boot head monster, becoming what she had done in her childlike life. Her mouth flapped from a boot, and a little sole popped out, a sole of a shoe to be
like a
tongue.
yeah, like a tongue. I see it. I can honestly visualize it. Oh my god.
Who's a child now, Mary Tudor?
I will not be defeated by a boot, by a sentient boot. Do your worst. You get one kick before I call the royal guard. And with that, Mary turned and stuck her head out the window and let her derriere be exposed for one flippant kick.
And kick Marigold did do, but it was more of a headbutt, because she took her booted face and she rammed it right up Mary Tudor's butt and gave it like a donkey like kick.
Yeah.
And with that, Mary Tudor flew out of the window and landed.
She passed the old mill. Oh, she passed a bunch of the places we've seen before. She passed the stables. She flew past the town square gallows. Until she landed in the water, sinking deep underneath. As the wetness permeated her, and she became the bones that had been left behind, although sentient in her bones, but forever damaged by this boot, fractured, and so thus stuck like this for, some would say, eternity. One could say booted into eternity.
Marigold began to writhe once more and began to feel weak. The leather that had taken over her skin began to be stripped away, and pustules and blood formed underneath, and those two in time were shed. And she sat there naked as the day she was born, for she now was reborn into a human body. And this too happened to every townsperson in London. The blood, the congealed mess at which they became writhed and grew, and each Londoner that day was reborn out of the wetness, out of the damp trench they found themselves in.
Even the three skeletons from earlier were made flesh once more. Ow, now it just hurts to play myself. I'm still dancing. I'm better than ever. Because cartilage came back as well. And as the mist cleared for once and for all, back out to sea, back to where where the body of Dugan / Mary sunk, screaming in silent agony. The day in London began once again as people cautiously emerged from their dwellings, unsure of what they'd experienced.
Meredith scurried back over to her house to clothe herself and wear at least a shawl, for God's sakes. Marigold. She heard a familiar sound. The floorboards above were creaking, but it was quieter than usual. There was no coughing coming from upstairs.
Meredith? Marigold?
Father!
It's me, your father. Not only am I back, but my ailment is gone. I can breathe again.
Father, I think we can all breathe again.
And the former skeleton danced. And as promised, 2 weeks from that night, when the moon again struck, there was a graveyard smash, like no other, hosted by sentient Meredith, and now a very fleshy bunch of graveyard ghouls. But so it happened, as was promised.
And so it happened as was promised.
As was promised.
Good evening.
Good evening. Such is the end. Thank you for watching Omens. May you have a good spooky night of your own.